Hi, I'm here with Kyle Parker, Senior Software Engineer at Ball State University. We're going to be talking about beacon technology, something that is really an emerging technology in the market today. And how you doing, Kyle?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So why don't we start talking about defining beacon technology, general usage, and markets the market or markets that it's currently being used in. So go ahead.
Sure. Beacon Tech is, as you said, something new that's coming out on the market. And essentially, a beacon is a Bluetooth low energy device. It's small, it's discrete, can really be installed anywhere within an indoor space. It doesn't require any wiring or any infrastructure to be in place for that beacon. It can typically be adhered with adhesive or screwed into place. Has a 2, 3, or 5 year battery, just depending on what type of power supply, and provides, much like satellites do outside, it provides location data while you're inside a building, and you're able to access that data via your smartphone, via tablet, or other device capable of Bluetooth 4.0 and above. So it is a new Bluetooth specification. The older devices don't have that, so it is dependent upon the newer devices, both Android and iOS, that have been released over the last year or so. The primary market where people are probably seeing a lot of activity is the retail space. Storefronts, shopping malls, things like that are starting to deploy beacons to be able to more effectively target customers as they enter the store. So if they know something about the customer in terms of their previous shopping habits or their preferences in terms of clothing or merchandise, they're able to push advertisements, sales, new products, basically push content to drive and increase revenue when their customers enter their location.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at an article, as a matter of fact, that talks about emerging beacon market. Um, this is back from December of 2013, but honestly still applies. It talks about Macy's uh, being one retailer rolling out beacon technology starting in the holiday season of 2013, which I'm sure at this point they've already been utilizing very well. Yeah, give us an idea of what you know about that and really how big that's become in the retail market at this point.
Sure. I mean, not being in retail, being in education, there's the obvious that if you've got a better idea of what your customer is looking for, you know they're in your store, you know how long they're in your store, you know what sections or what areas they're looking at your product. That gives a much better way to target that customer and be able to push product. If you're at a clothing retailer and you're in the women's section or the men's section, you have a much better idea of what products they're going to be purchasing and what would entice them to buy more in terms of there's something on sale or there's something new coming in. If you're at an electronics retailer and you're standing and looking at those big screen TVs frequently, well, there's a way to push, hey, look at this new great device that's coming out next week, or here's the Black Friday sale that's coming up this holiday season. It just gives a more personalized and a more relevant way to target customers, and not the shotgun approach where you're just throwing out everything and hoping that something in your flyer, your sales ad, is going to appeal to them and entice them to come into the store or stay in the store and continue to shop and to continue to purchase your merchandise.
So being familiar with, as I am with push technology, it looks like for the retail market, it allows them to build up marketing for seasons, that are big with retailers, especially the holiday season. So where you talk about Black Friday, where you talk about getting close to Christmas, this technology really helps them to take advantage of broadcasting per se to the shoppers.
right? It's a very personalized, a very sort of targeted message that they can push. It's like all the movies, the future movies where you see the advertisements changing based on who's walking by. So it's that type of concept that it's not just a generic ad anymore. It's something that's truly meant for you based on who you are and past shopping habits, um, and really targeted content
Hmm.
that's pushed at a timely fashion. So you're not getting a flyer in the mail a week before you're going someplace. You're getting pushed a notification while you're standing there in the store at a point where you could purchase and actually spend the money.
Hmm. And believe it or not, when I've been in the stores, I've seen it on my smartphone where it's being pushed. I was in a Sears one time. That was pushed to my phone. It was pretty amazing when I saw it, but really made me sit there and say, wow, technology is just becoming more amazing by the day. This article even goes on to say, talking about companies using them in conjunction with Bluetooth tags and allowing assets to broadcast messages about status in a machine to machine environment. So we talk about M2M these days, and this touches on machine to machine. So again, M2M becoming the big deal that it is today. This is just another example of how that environment is building out as well.
Right. It's great for inventory, great for tracking, just great for knowing that easy, easy access information.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's good in a nutshell, I guess. Um, so there's another article from 2013, which is actually talking about uh, how this is going to build into 2014, mentioning real-time marketing platforms leveraging geolocation. It talks about geofencing. Uh, give us some detail to that as well.
Sure, with geofencing, it's more or less the idea of you've got a fixed point, and from that point, there's a radius or a bubble around it. Once you enter that fence, something is going to trigger, something is going to happen because of that proximity. So when we were looking at beacons to use at the university, the vendor we were talking to described a scenario at a casino where one of their customers had deployed the beacons and they would add geofences to the various tables or the various points within the casino. Then, as their customers who had registered with the casino, had indicated their preferences, had built up that history, as they crossed into those fences and had a lingering time. So it wasn't just a pass through. It was you were in this space for a defined period of time. They were able to start sending targeted messages to those customers that were specific to where they were inside the store. So not only did they know, or I guess within the casino, not only did they know they were in the casino, but they knew at what table they were at and were able to target based on preferences to that location and to that fence that they had crossed.
Mm. Oh, that's real good. So I'm looking at a recent article um, that talks about it starts after indoor positioning with Wi-Fi, beacon technology being a massive step forward in ambient context identification, and really talking about how it's becoming, I guess, the rage at this point, all the rage at this point. Uh, Here, let's talk about that and basically go on to what you're doing there at Ball State University with beacon technology.
Sure. So again, when we started this project, we were wanting to do indoor positioning. We wanted to be able to find, since we're a university, we're not a retail space, so we're not going to be selling clothes or electronics. We wanted to find an academic purpose for it. So as we were doing the research to see how we could accomplish indoor positioning, we looked at Wi-Fi because our campus is connected. All of our buildings have Wi-Fi access. It reaches out into our outdoor space. But as we began to investigate the potential of using the access points, we found that while we have a great Wi-Fi environment for coverage, it wasn't necessarily configured for location. So we didn't have that um, ability to really target with any sort of accuracy or precision where you were in a space. And that I think is a common issue for places that do have access points deployed. There's the whether or not that access point powers up or powers down based on the number of individuals that are in that space using the access point, that can affect knowing location. So when those points are deployed, they really have to be deployed with location in mind or coverage in mind. And knowing how they're going to be used really affects how those are deployed. And it also affects the cost. You've got to consider the equipment, running all the cabling, all the network, and just the overall infrastructure for how those access points are set up. And then if you're trying to do this sort of ad hoc, there's the development aspect and the logic that comes into play, the algorithms of how to define and determine sort of the gain and loss differential from an access point to triangulate your position. Because again, when we were doing this, we were researching other ways of doing this rather than going out and buying a product. And I stumbled across several attempts by universities and computer science students and professors that tried to develop that algorithm to use access points. And there was just a lot of overhead and a lot of complexities that made it not a simple implementation. There was a lot of work to get it to really work right. And even then, it didn't. Uh, so that's when we started researching beacon tech. And a couple of the vendors that we initially looked at were very expensive. It was tens of thousands of dollars to try to deploy a solution for a relatively small space. The space we were looking at is about 25,000 square feet, covering 2 floors. It's our art museum at the university. So we continued to do some research and we came across a vendor out of France, and their cost was relatively inexpensive. The beacon price was $60 per beacon. So comparing that to the access points or other solutions, it was significantly cheaper, and something that, because this is an emerging market, trying to find it is well defined for retail, but not so much for education. So finding a low price point for entry and being able to prototype and do a proof of concept in a higher ed environment, it was a perfect fit for us. And we were able to purchase the beacons. We've deployed initially 40 in that space. We're going to deploy another 40 here next week because we found that while the location was good, the accuracy was good, the transitions as we moved from room to room would sometimes jump. So our theory, again, with the cost being so low, we're able to work this out and to identify what really is the best solution in terms of the density of coverage. But our theory is that the more dense the beacon deployment, the smoother the transition as you move from room to room. So your blue dot, the same blue dot that you would see if you're driving outside with the satellites and GPS, that same blue dot on the inside is going to be more smooth as it moves within the indoor space.
Mm. No, I tell you, it's it's technology that I'm hearing about actually a friend of mine who is a he is a home integrator. However, a little while back, he talked about how he is starting to he's starting to get into beacon technology, and he actually steps outside the zone of AV in different ways. But when he started talking about this, I could kind of hear an excitement in his voice more than I ever heard before in terms of getting into beacon technology. I guess I have to catch up with him one of these days to see what he's doing now. But in the home integration space, I have to see how he's trying to build it out. So, where do you see the future of beacon technology in the markets? Especially in higher education, where it's going? Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
I think it's going to be almost expected at some point, whether you're at an airport, a shopping mall, or a university. Much like you can pull up your phone and see Google Maps and know where you are and how to get to some place outdoors, that same expectation is going to be applied to indoor locations. Whether it's on a campus and you're trying to find your classroom, you're a freshman and you're trying to figure out in this 5-story building, where is my classroom for my 8 o'clock class? Or you're in a library and you're trying to find a book or an article that you found on the computer system and trying to locate it. So I think, again, that same expectation of just being quickly and easily get to someplace is going to be one driver of it. The other driver is going to be that personalized push of data and information that the area that I'm in and the context for why I'm there, I'm going to get personalized content delivered to my mobile device that is relevant and timely to me and not just a broad push of data. It's going to be something that I'm going to be able to act on and be able to do based on my preferences and my interests related to where I'm at. So in our case with the museum project, we're going to be able to push content based on the artwork the visitor is looking at, whether it's a new gallery that's opening up next week, a new exhibit that's coming into the museum, or just more of the relaxation. There's a program that does yoga on the weekends in the galleries. So being able to just push that information to the visitors, it the hope is that we'll create goodwill and a better relationship with the visitors, that they'll want to come back, they'll get more information, they'll be more connected and get the information they need or the information they didn't even know they wanted, but because we're able to infer things, deliver that content to them. And I see that crossing all markets, all boundaries. Again, whether it's retail space or you're in the airport and you're trying to find the gate, or really anywhere that you need to know that indoor positioning and content that could help make your life better, give you more information.
So finally, I guess what I want to ask is for the AV integrators, okay, who always consider technologies outside the standard AV norm. Do you have any thoughts, advice, what have you, for those who really want to position beacon technology as a value add, especially to markets, but especially even the higher ed space?
Sure, again, with just knowing what their customers are doing and where they're at in the space is going to be beneficial. And I'd say the best thing to look at is something that is discrete and it doesn't require the user doing anything. Other than installing an app, it should just work. They don't need to have any special hardware. They don't need to have um, any special configuration. As long as that Bluetooth turned on, it should just work. The app and the technology technology should take care of the rest. So it needs to be simple, and because if it's too complicated and the user has to do something beyond installing an app and logging into something, I don't know that it's going to be all that successful. If they've got to make sure they have X, Y, and Z, and it takes that extra bit of effort, it's going to not be as successful as those that you install something and you're on your way.
Mm. So, in terms of leveraging beacon technology for end users, you can see this as a value add in the AV integration market.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well that's fantastic. So Kyle, thank you. This has been great. And for anybody listening who wants further information on beacon technology, usage, how it can be leveraged for end users, get in touch. And certainly Kyle can talk more about it as well with his advanced knowledge base. And thanks for listening. And I will have further conversations with Kyle in the future on different technologies, and you'll be hearing more from him. As a matter of fact, you'll also be seeing an article in December that includes Kyle talking about Google Glass and smartwatches. So look forward to that too.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kyle. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.